You're out in the woods on a fun little hike when you hear a twig snap. Your blood runs cold and you look around for the source of the crack when you look back in relief, realizing that it was nothing more than a deer. You breathe out a loud, audible sigh of relief and smirk at how ridiculous you feel having just been scared by a cute little deer. You pull out your camera and while it's turning on, you look back to make sure it's still there for you to take a picture of. And your eyes meet its. And this is when the hair on the back of your neck begins to stand up. The two eyes on your face meet the two eyes on its face, but that's not supposed to be possible, at least not like this. You see, the majority of all animals can be classified as prey animals when their eyes are on the side of their head. It's said to be an adaptation that allows them to be more aware of their surroundings and therefore able to detect threats and run away as soon as possible, which is where this deer differs from the rest. Sitting in front of you is what is believed to be a creature of legend, a creature known as the knot deer. Now, you're left with three options. You can either take your picture and go about your business and pretend like you didn't just wreck your pants because you know you're sharing the woods with something that shouldn't exist. Or two, you could run away and get back to your car assuming that it doesn't chase you down and trample you. Or three, you can buck up at this beast and hope that you have enough strength to take it down. So let's talk about the knot deer. The knot deer is a horrifying creature that many do not believe exists, but if you were driving by one and had mere seconds to really look at it, you probably wouldn't realize what you were looking at. These knot deer are said to inhabit the Appalachian Mountains, and the majority of their sightings are all in Tennessee, and before you Wendigo and Skinwalker fans out there start saying it's one or the other, the magic used to become skinwalkers is sort of bound to their respective region, which isn't Georgia. So if this abomination of nature isn't one of those things, what could it be? Well, like always, I like to dive into the history of the people that called this place home before us, the Native Americans of Appalachia. The Cherokee are one of the most populated groups in the US, but since I've read extensively about their legends and creatures, I'm very well aware that there is a lack of a knot deer type cryptid in their legends. So if it comes from a Native American group, it isn't them. Another group is the Pamunkey. What's interesting about these people is that they have a treaty and legal rights to their land that date back over 400 years. They're also a subset of the Powhatan people, but unfortunately, after looking into both groups, there's almost no information about their lore and legends. I'm sure it's stored somewhere out there, but wherever they are, it's nowhere that I can get to and read about. There's also the Rappahannock tribe, as well as the Upper Mattapony tribe, which is, again, a subset of the Powhatan people, but still, I didn't find any information about this odd creature, which really just leads me to speculate based on the knowledge that I have about previous cryptids and folklore. So with that being said, the explanation I have for what the knot deer is not by any means a fact or to be accepted as fact, and honestly, if you have a better explanation for this than I do, please let me know down in the comments, because this thing is unique. But before we get into my explanation of what the knot deer is, we need to talk about its behavior and what you can expect if you run into one. This directly ties into my explanation of how they came to be. So when you see the knot deer from a distance, you really can't tell that it isn't an ordinary deer. It's when you start to close the gap and maintain eye contact with it that you begin to realize it has more joints in its legs than it's supposed to. And it also has two eyes on the front of its head rather than on the side. It walks similar to a newborn fawn, but it clearly is not a youth at all. The limbs are also said to be disproportionate and longer, way longer than they should be for an average deer. If you were to encounter one, you could actually walk straight up to it and it will not run away from you. The knot deer is said to have no fear of humans. You could literally walk right up to one and all it will do is stare at you the whole time. Now, as odd and unnerving as it may be to see this distorted creature in the woods, you don't have much to be afraid of. They're said to not be generally aggressive towards humans, but there is an exception to this. If you see it and you feel a little nervous and you want to try to shoo it away, then it's going to come after you. There's supposedly some encounters in which people were chased up a tree by the knot deer. They're also likely to walk on their hind legs to make themselves look bigger like most animals tend to do. The only encounter story comes from Reddit, but I'm going to save that for the end. Right now, I want to go ahead and get into how I believe they came to be. The best explanation for the knot deer is that it was originally a normal deer that just was killed in a very disrespectful way. You see, the Cherokee believed that the white-tailed deer was a sacred animal. Before you were to go out and hunt one of these creatures for food and clothing, You would have to pray and abstain from slapping skins for 4 days before you went out in search of them. On the first night, the hunter would dip himself in a pool of water at sundown while singing an ancient song. The next day, he would fast and again dip himself in the pool while singing the same song or chant. The night after, he would cook a meal, eat, and then spread the ashes from the fire across his chest. On the third morning, after pleasing the fire and water gods, by following these rituals, it would be time to hunt. Now, I don't have spy cameras in every hunter's bathroom or backyard, but I highly doubt any modern man is singing in his swimming pool, keeping his jimmy to himself, and then rubbing ashes on his chest. And this isn't to cast any shame on anyone that goes out and hunts for their food. If I had the means and time to, I'd honestly love to do the same. It just feels it's better to be aware of where your food comes from and to also be man enough to take the life yourself, but that's just my opinion. To me, it's about fully respecting your food, where it comes from, and how it got onto your table. But I believe this is where the not deer comes from. You see, regardless of what religion you adhere to, there are unseen forces that react with us, toward us, and against us. This is just the realm of the supernatural, of which we have no way to measure its existence by. There's all these ghost hunter toys and tricks. It's all honestly so easy to fake, and I personally don't find any value in any of the toys that they use. But whether you're an atheist, agnostic, or some other third thing, we all feel that tingle on the back of our neck when we're in a place that we know we shouldn't be, doing things we know that we shouldn't be doing, and meddling with forces we ought not meddle with. I believe that somehow the constant disrespect of nature is causing unnatural creatures to appear, and the not deer is one of them. Look at the creatures of folklore and modern day sightings of things that just don't make any sense. The Mothman, Dogman, Bigfoot, El Chupacabra, Wendigos, and the strange phenomenon that happens to the most random of people with the most random of things, like the weird floating walking pants thing. Whatever it is that's going on, there has to be some sort of supernatural force at work creating these abominations, because we constantly encroach on nature, disrespect our food, disrespect our home, our planet, and everyone around us. I mean, honestly, try to drive down the road once a day for 5 days and tell me that you never get upset by somebody. There's a lot of malevolence in the world, and I'm thinking the not deer is a physical manifestation of that disrespect towards animals, deer specifically. I'm all for hunting food, but I've never been a fan of trophy hunting. We're humans, we have overpowered IQ stats. Thanks to the rifle and the pistol, there's not much that we can't take down. But the not deer, that's something I wouldn't risk trying to take down. If this is a physical manifestation of a deer that was treated with disrespect, I don't even know that it's possible to kill one. And now the one man's encounter with the not deer. I'm only going to be reading a section of the story, but I'll link the entire thing in the description if you want to hear more from this guy. This comes from Emerson Dotsies. Then I saw it. The term of almost deer is really fitting, but not quite accurate. It was like a deer that someone who had never seen a deer drew, but only after someone else described it to them. It stood on the left side of the road, mountainside, and I saw the eyes long before my headlights shone it fully. It was big, easily the biggest deer I've seen, and the lack of any horns that time in the year suggested that it was a doe. The head was almost bovine in shape, but fixed to a deer's frame. The legs seemed too long in proportion to the body. Think maned wolf proportions. And the body was extremely barrel-chested. I've always been creeped out by malformed wildlife, and this was no exception. Unfortunately, I had to get it to move or risk passing within a few feet of it. I was not traveling another 30 plus miles up the road in the other direction to leave through another gate in the middle of the night, and I wasn't getting close to it. Dangers of it spooking and running into the side of my cruiser aside, I didn't want to get near it at all. Stopping and putting my feet down about 30 feet away from it, I tried to frighten it away. I flashed my beams down to low and back to high. Nothing. I revved the engine. Nothing. I honked the considerable horn. Nada. Resting the bike on the kickstand, I left it idling and hopped off. I yelled at the thing and it still didn't budge. So I started to the side of the road to grab something to toss near the dear thing, hoping to spook it in that way. As soon as I crossed into the other lane, it rose up onto its hind legs. I froze. Putting my hand on my gun, I wasn't about to get charged by an angry, confused, malformed doe. It took 2 jerky, unnatural steps towards the center of the lane on 2 legs and froze again, staring directly at me. It suddenly shook its head wildly like a dog with a toy, took another short step, then hopped on 2 legs several times until it disappeared into the darkness on the right side of the road. I stepped back to the bike, mounted it, kicked up the kickstand, and turned the lights toward the side of the road. On that side, there was a sheer drop-off about 75 to 80 degrees compared to the roadway, and the fucking thing's head was just peeking over the edge, still looking at me. The drop-off was about 40 to 50 feet, so there's no way it was standing at the base of the mountainside. I cracked the throttle and beat the hell out of there. Road wildlife be damned. There's a lot of unknown creatures out there in the dark of the woods that we truly don't know about. So again, here we lie with the somewhat horrifying mystery of the not deer. And where mystery lies, adventure awaits. If you like what I do and you want to help support me, the best way to do that is by joining the community on Patreon. I post when I can and it goes a long way in supporting the channel, but if you're not into that, then just check out this video YouTube seems to think you'll love, and I'll see you there.